ਇੱਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੋਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ ਜਪ ਆਦ ਸਚ जुगाद सच है भी सच नानक होसी भी सच वेद पुराण सिमृत में देख सस्यर सुर नक्षत्र में एक वाणी प्रभ की सबको बोले आप अडोल न कबू डोले पाताल पाताल लख आगास आगास ओढ़क ओढ़क पाल तके वेद कहण एक बात सहस 18 कहण कतेबा असूलो एक दात लिखे होए ते लिखिए लिखे होए विनाश। श्री गुरु ग्रंथ साहिब जी has various verses, various shabads, various ways of telling us as to how the entire solar system was formed. Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji acknowledges the Big Bang theory, which science later depicted that yes, this earth, the solar system, this galaxy was formed with a big bang which resulted in a number of stars and number of suns. केते सिद्ध बुद्ध नाथ केते केते देवी वेश केते देव दाणु मुण केते केते रतन संबंध केत्या खाणी केत्या बाणी केते पात्रिंद केत्या सती केवक केते नानक अंत नांत। कई कोट पवन पाणी व संतर कई कोट देश भूमंडल कई कोट सस्यर सुर नक्षत्र कई कोट देव दानव इंद्र सिर छत्र सगल सामग्री अपने सुत तारे नानक जिस दस भावे तिस तिस निस्तारे। What it means is there are so many suns, so many planets, so many asteroids, so many cosmic bodies in the solar system that one cannot even imagine as to what the Lord Almighty is and how strong, how omnipotent the Lord Almighty is. Today we are on a topic about Sikhism and astrology. To what extent does Sikhism accept astrology? Or would astrology be permitted in Sikhism? Or would astrology form part of Sikhism? Or rather, is astrology permitted in Sikhism? I find a number of Sikh brethren flocking astrologers, giving their times of birth, dates of birth. I have myself done Jyotish Visharad in astrology. However, that is not for doing professional astrology, though I can compete with professional astrologers, but in order to study how astrology would affect the people. My answer to the question of Sikhism and astrology is Sikhism does not need astrology. Sikhism is so strong in its principles and its way of worship that it obviates the need of astrology. Today I will demonstrate how Sikhism obviates the need of astrology. And if a Sikh follows Sikhism properly in the truest sense and aspect, there would not be any need of seeking refuge to astrologers, and to what extent astrology can be used by anybody for a limited purpose of knowing the pitfalls in one's character. Let us first start with the first principle of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Ik Onkar Satnam Karta Purkh Nirbhav Nirvair Akal Murt Ajone Saibang Guru Prasad Jap Ad Sach Jugad Sach Hai Bhi Sach Nanak Hosi Bhi Sach. सोचे सोच न होवे या सोचे लखवार, चुपे चुप न होवे जे लाही रहा लिवतार, भुखिया भुख न उतरी जे पन्ना पुरियां पार, सेहत सणपा लख होए ता एक न चले नाल, किव सचियारा हुई है किव कूड़े टुट्टे पाल, हुक्म रजाई चलना नानक लिखिया नाल, हुक्म रजाई चलना नानक लिखिया नाल. Hukum, the order, the ordinance of the Almighty, is regarded as the primal foundation to accept what the Lord Almighty has destined and what the Lord Almighty, Vaheguruji, prescribes for each and every subject. Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji is replete with words which mean bhana manna. Bhana manna means to accept what the Almighty does. जिसकी बस्त तिस आगे राखे, प्रभ की आज्ञा माने माथे, उसते चौगुन करे निहाल, नानक साहिब सदा दयाल. In the first place, Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji and all the 10 Padshahis have laid emphasis to accept the decision of the Almighty. Sri Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj Ji, Sarbans Dani, Shamsher Bahadur, who even sacrificed all his 4 sons, his mother, and 46 in the Battle of Chamkaur. He too, Dhan Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj Ji, accepted the ordinance of the Almighty. When the ethos and the principles of Sikhism start with accepting the will of the Almighty, it automatically means that one has to accept what the Almighty does. With these very words, in fact, I attack the concept of astrology applicable to Sikhism. Now, coming to the scientific part as to how a Sikh would not require astrology, or how Sikhism cures the planetary effects which would obviate the need of any true Sikh to go to any astrologer. Let us see what astrology is. Astrology is nothing but the science of how the gravitational forces of various planets affect the subject when he is born. When a subject is born, when a human being is born, a subject means a human being. When he is born at a particular time and a particular place. The time, the latitude and the longitude play the factors of determining the characteristic of the child. How it happens. Say for instance a subject is born over here. The position of the sun, which has the highest gravitational force, the position of the moon, which is the closest gravitational force, then the position of Jupiter. Various gravitational forces would affect the brain, the aura around the brain of the child, due to which the child would develop a particular character. Based on the past birth's karma, which has a reflex action, at the time when the person is born with some positive aspects and some negative aspects as a result of this gravitational force. Now, which is the highest gravitational force? The highest gravitational force is Akal Purakh and Vaikuruji himself. All these other gravitational forces are manifestations of that highest gravitational force, which binds all planets. Karmi apo apni ke nede ke dur. Depending on the past births, deeds, a person is born. In Sanskrit, we have Janani Janme Saukyanam Padi Purva Punyanam Likhyate Janam Patrika. Janani Janma Saukyanam, meaning a lady who gives birth to a child is giving birth to a piece of living being depending on what he has done in the past. In the fifth house of any person's birth chart, we can determine as to what has been done in the past births. A very close, minute study of astrology would show the same. Now, coming to these planets which keep on having effect, how does one use astrology to cure them? In the first place, let us see how the planets would affect the aura. When a child grows, a particular planet or a particular way of functioning of the child would show that he is having some problems in some activities. For instance, studies. For instance, he may be a fighter. In astrology, we say that the Rahu is disturbed, due to which he has been a physical fighter. Now, what happens is when a person starts going to a sadh sangat, a congregation of prayers, which is prescribed by the Guru Granth Sahib. When a person starts going over there, he is under an umbrella of the ultimate force of Akal Purakh, of Vaiguruji, which keeps on and on and on curing and taking off and warding off the ill effects of all these planetary positionings. Submerging within oneself, Simro Simar Simar Sukh Pao, Kal Kales Tan Meh Mitao, Simro Jas Bisambar Eke, Naam Japat Agnat Aneke, Ved Puran Simit Sudakhar, Kine Ram Naam Ik Akar, Kinka Ek Jis Ji Basave, Taki Mahima Ganin Ave, Kanki Eke Daras Tuharo, Nanak Unsang Hai Udaro, Sukhmani Sukh Amr Prab Naam, Bhagat Jana Ke Man Bisram. Man Bisram. The mind has to be controlled. The mind gets controlled with continuous contemplation. And once the mind is controlled with a continuous jap, with a continuous remembrance, with continuous kirtan, with continuous satsangat, with continuous association of saints, and with continuous recitation of the Sabbath, Turki Pani Ai Jni Sagli Chint Mitai, it automatically makes the subject powerful in determining as to what is to be done and what is not to be done. The subject automatically, if he has, for instance, Rahu in a very disturbed position, which will make him a fighter, with continuous chanting, he will channelize that negative energy, that negative character, into some positive field like the police or like the army. Suppose he has a very strong Rahu and Mangal together, which in astrology would suggest that a person could become a killer. But then that person with the same negative point, with continuous chanting, with continuous contemplation of the Almighty, can channelize into a very good, I would say, a very good army man, a very good sharpshooter in the sports field. In so many other aspects, that same energy could be utilized. With continuous remembrance of God and continuous association of Sadh Sangat, which invokes the internal Chit Shakti, and the association to the ultimate cosmic force, which is the Almighty Himself, that takes care of all kinds of planetary afflictions. Resultantly, in a number of Sikhs who have been following Sikhism very well, for example, the Rahat Maryada of Sikhism says of getting up at Amrit Vela in the morning. Why is Amrit Vela chosen? Amrit Vela is chosen because at that time, the time between 2:30 to 45 up to 5:30 quarter to 6 is the Amrit Vela. In Hinduism, we call it the Brahma Muhurta. In Muslims, they do the Tahajjud ki namaz in this time. Why is this time chosen? This time is chosen because the level of negative activity is the least, because people are sleeping, they're not active at this time. And at this time, associating oneself with the Almighty through the Anhad, the inner voice. Anad suno vadpagiyo sagal manorath pure par brahma paya utre sagal visure. A person who becomes close to the Almighty by various practices, which is known as the Rahat Maryada, he becomes closer and closer to the Almighty. He internally starts introspecting himself as to where he is going wrong, and those things in which he is going wrong, which is a result of that planetary positioning in astrology, automatically invigorates the discretionary ability of the subject, of the human being who is a Sikh, and he automatically eradicates those things by proper decision making. Astrology and the various planetary positionings affect the mind, which affects the action, which continuous contemplation and association with the Almighty, it automatically minimizes the chances of wrong action. The Guru Granth Sahib Ji has further number of shabads where a direct interpretation is that the Almighty may do all the things which He wants us to do as per His wish. Hukum rajai chalna, Nanak likhya naal, hukmi hoon akar, hukum na kiya jai, hukmi mile ji, hukm le vadiyai, hukmi uttam neech, hukmi likh dukh sukh paiye, ikna hukmi baksis, iki hukmi sada pavaiye, hukme andar sabko, bahar hukm na koe, nanak hukme jai buje, ta home kahe na koe. Now, hukam. Some people just say that something happens or it was hukam. That is not the way to interpret it. Once you have to submit yourself to the will of the God, and then you have to realize what is the hukam. And that submission would come slowly and steadily with continuous practice of simar. Simar is contemplation, realization of the oneness of the Anhad, the inner voice, with the soul, and the soul with the Almighty. Once that energy is developed, that automatically supersedes all the energies of the gravitational forces which engulf a person at the time when he is born. That is the reason why it is said that pure Sikhi automatically eradicates the transmigration, the planetary positioning, the past birth deeds also start getting cured. The basic nature of a person may not change. So, if at all a Sikh desires to read or study astrology as for himself or for his children or for his wife, that should be restricted only and only to the characteristic determination of the person as to what are the negative points in the birth chart. What could be the weaknesses in the child's functioning only to that extent. Astrology used for future predictions is prohibited in Sikhism because the will of the Almighty is regarded as supreme, due to which Pancham Patshahi, Shahid-e-Azam, Tan Guru Arjan Dev Maharaj Ji sacrificed his life. Tan Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji also sacrificed his life. Tan Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj Ji also sacrificed not only his life, the lives of so many Sikhs, his own children and his family. And finally, even he himself was wounded by a blow, after which that wound did not get cured, and he went. And he says, "Main ho param purakh ko dasa, vekhan ayo jagat tamasa." बाणी प्रभ की सबको बोले, आप अडोल कबू डोले, वेद पुराण समित में देख, ससिर सुर नक्षत्र में एक. Which means that the Bani, the Shabad, which is the divine word and the ordinance of the Almighty, of Vaheguruji himself, affects everything. Sasya Sur Nakshatra mein ek. Everything is governed and controlled by the Almighty's cosmic force. So an association directly with the Almighty's cosmic force, which is association with Almighty himself, automatically would make you function or make the child function according to the will of the Almighty. Man beche Satguru ke paas, tis sevak ke karaj ras. Means the moment you submit your own action to the will of the Almighty, the will of the divine Guru or the Sadguru, Guru Gobind Gobind hai, Nanak Ped na bahi. Submitting yourself to Guru Maharaj's will also is submitting yourself to the divine ordinance of Vaheguruji. Then automatically Vaheguruji takes over and he makes you do the work. And that is how Vaheguruji's divine energy supersedes any kind of planetary positionings. But for all this to be achieved, one has to follow true Sikhism. One has to get up as early as possible in the morning when the negative activities of the world are low, and then he has to recite. He has to be in continuous contemplation when he is doing his work, doing his daily duties, and even doing and obliging his biological needs. And at the time of night also, he has to remember the Almighty. He has to visit, and he must visit congregations of mass prayers, which is Sat Sangat, do Seva. Seva means anything to be done with a intent of serving the Almighty, and it should be selfless. Seva karat hoye neh kami, tisko hot parapat swami. These aspects have to be practiced on a 24 hours, 365 days, 24/7 basis. And with these kind of continuous prayers and continuous chantings and rememberings in the name of the Almighty, one overpowers the need for going to astrologers. Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj says, Sikh मैनू नहीं प्यारा, मैनू रहत मर्यादा प्यारी है. रहत सुनो मेरे मीत गुरु सिख, रहत सुनो मेरे मीत. The practice of Sikhism is more important rather than mere adherence to the Vesh Bhusha of Sikhism. The moment you practice Sikhism in this sense, as is propagated and preached by Guru Granth Sahib Ji, the need for astrology becomes diminished. And that is the reason we say Sikhism does not require astrology. Not only Sikhism, any religion, any person who follows these sound principles of adherence and contemplation to the Almighty would not require astrology. Limit astrology only to aspects of curing the mind. These stones that I'm wearing, this has got nothing to do with future. They are meant to alter the thinking. of the person. Though I say that a person must keep on remembering the Almighty, there are various instances, various temptations in life which take away a person from the Almighty sometimes. At that time, certain artificial modes are to be provided to enable a person to think properly. That is all. Stones and gemstones also will not bring more than a 10% change. Finally, it is your own karam sacha nisan, your own karam, your own work which will determine what is to be done. Following Sikhism would mean contemplation of the Almighty for as much time, aat peher. In fact, every moment he has to be remembered. And the moment you follow the principles of Sat Sangat, getting up early in the morning, chanting the name, remembering him in everything that you do, doing Nishkam Seva, doing Sat Sangat, you automatically are engulfed by the divine energy, by the divine ambience, by the divine aura, which overpowers the aura given to you at the time of birth due to planetary effects. Therefore, Sikhism does not need astrology if followed properly. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.